Because like I said, it's not magic.
Hey, Michael.
Michael Dell bringing incredible information about the transformation of technology going into the future here at Dell EMC World 2017. I am Jeremy Breizel, JB, with incredible panels. We look to the future. No great responsibility on these panelists, except for us to completely understand how the future will work. And these are the people that will do it. Brian Mullen, CEO and co-founder of DAQRI, which is augmented reality. We'll talk much more about that. Jordan Howard, next-gen strategist, which I'm very excited about because I am old gen, and co-founder of Gen Why Not, which we'll also dig into as well. And at the end there, Liam Quinn, Dell CTO Client Solutions. Liam, thanks for being with us. All of you, thanks for being with us. As we look forward to realizing transformation, the scope of it is almost unfathomable. But what we have to understand is that technology and human interactions will change, and they will not go backwards. We are only going to interact more and more with technology, and what that means for work, for education, for personal, and how our lives will be affected in that way, other than, and I will say it again, other than the rise of the Terminators, we have to figure out how technology and humans can work together in a great way. So I'm excited to have that conversation. I want to thank you all for being here. We will rejoin the general session with David Goulden when we are back down there in Hall A. David Goulden is coming up on the other side of this, so don't forget that as we continue our conversation here. So let's get into it. How will humans and technology interact? I guess from each of you, how do you foresee it in the near term as we then look forward to the bigger term? Let's start with you, Brian, as I know you work with augmented reality a great deal. What do you see in that relationship first?
Yeah, I think what we do in augmented reality, it's really important to focus on the way that people interact with the technology, the way that they act with machines. I see a lot of parallels to in early manufacturing. The idea was to have a widget machine that would make 1 million widgets an hour, but they ended up only paying for themselves if they ran all of the time. The things like lean manufacturing helped to break that up into smaller pieces so that a person could be enabled to do what they do best, which was be very flexible, be creative with problem solving. These manufacturing facilities could be a lot more efficient, reduce waste, be flexible and empower the workers. I think augmented reality is going to help make that in the future, where instead of monolithic automation, we're talking about robots and artificial intelligence, and we're allowing people to do what they do really well, and the machines to do what they really do well.
Unleashing what people do best is ultimately what technology should be about. And Jordan, you work in the social and social for good space, as well as the next generation, perhaps the younger technology interfaces, which for a generation of people where so many things are commonplace, the internet, on demand, mobile, everything. What do you foresee immediately and in the next near future?
We don't know yet, which is the most exciting. We don't know. We're creating it. We're creating it right now. So it's exciting being a millennial and being young and growing up in this time where automation is coming and artificial intelligence is at the tip of our hands, because I can do whatever I want to do when I'm 50 years old, and I'll probably be doing something completely different in the next 25 years. So what that means is that also, like, our educational institutions have to prepare for it and have to get ready for it. What higher education looked like when you went to school is going to look completely different than what it looks like for my 8-year-old sister when she goes to school. A job will look different. Where that job will be, what she will do, we'll probably be able to focus on what we're passionate about. But also accessibility will be a thing as well, especially for the social impact space. You have a lot of different social problems. So think about something like foster care. Foster care system in Los Angeles County is one of the largest. You have 30,000 young people. We're not using artificial intelligence in the foster care system. We're not using different medical records, all this data that you have that people are at the tip of the hands for it. We could use technology to really solve a lot of problems when it comes with the human error and enhance the engagement for the people.
And I think that's a big part of, as we capture so much data so exponentially faster now, how that data gets applied. You have to have people that are willing to think the foster care system and the technology systems can actually work together in that way. Liam, CTO for Client Solutions on the Dell side, you're obviously a big picture kind of person, and where you've been and how you've grown with that. What do you see in terms of human interaction, augmented reality, AI? What's the big effects that you anticipate?
Yeah, well, unlike Jordan, I'm a little outside the millennials, so...
just a shade.
Just a shade. So I've been on a great journey in my career. When you look at where the PC started with the microprocessor, and it's been a great ride for the last 30 years, and there's no end in sight. So when you look at technology today, and it's getting smaller, it's getting smarter, and it's getting cheaper, which means that more compute capability will be put into things that are outside the PC domain. So in all aspects of life, whether it's at home, work, or cars, or other vertical markets, technology is going to be embedded into those sectors. So we're seeing a lot of interaction more and more between humans and machines, and also machines to machines. So machines will be able to talk to each other. The way we've interacted with computers over the last 30 years have been primarily through the keyboard, through the mouse, and now we're starting to do gestures, voice, biometric interactions, and so forth. In the future, you will see more of the immersive capability emerging in machines itself, where machines will become more intelligent, they will do more analytics on themselves, become self-healing, adaptable to the workforce or the workload that they're running. So machines are becoming more and more into the Internet of Things and become more into an IP-based environment. So I think it's a great, the opportunity for productivity, increased productivity, efficiencies in the way we work are tremendous ahead of us. So when you think of our health, and our health is very important to us, and imagine nanobots that you could actually ingest, and it actually does more of the internal analysis of human beings, so they can actually be predictive on the way you're eating, the type of food you're eating, the type of exercise you're getting or not getting, and become more predictive in driving in things that you should change in your lifestyle, or the machines itself become more aware of what they need to do and adjust.
It's out of this world, swallowing a nanobot. I mean, who would have thought 10 years ago that this would be even in the realm of possibility? And what all of you are saying, the common theme is that these things are happening to help increase our potential as human beings, right? It's the interactions. Machines are not taking over. They're being developed to help us realize all the options that are afforded to us, like you mentioned your 8-year-old sister, or making us not smarter, but how we interact with the world smarter. And you shared an example before we went live about how the world of chess is being revolutionized, and how partnering human intelligence and artificial intelligence are making for unbeatable teams. Elaborate on that a little bit more.
Yeah, we were talking about freestyle chess, where I think it's widely known that an AI playing chess can beat a grandmaster today. But there's a league called freestyle chess where you can partner either an individual person and an individual AI, or you can partner up with a chess player and an AI. And more often than not, the partnership of the person and the AI is what wins the match, even against the best chess playing AIs in the world. I think it's fascinating. It does come back to a couple of things. One, that people doing what they do well and machines doing well can actually achieve a lot more, and it really takes off limits and people thinking, oh well, the machines are just kind of taking the job, and it's not. We make the technology in this industry. We make the technology, and if we can make that technology so that it helps other people keep up with that technology, I think that's the best configuration. AR has that ability with machines and robots and equipment, so that I can see what it's going to do. I can understand how I can interact with it, and in a lot of ways you can learn so fast that the difference between what you know now and what you could know gets very blurry, and that's exciting, right? People aren't defined as I do this one job my entire life and that defines me. Now you can potentially open up any career that you're passionate about. You mentioned, what do you want to do at 50? You can do whatever you want. Why not make a world of technology that supports that, so that people wake up and they get excited about what they're passionate about and really can move the needle, and when they need to, the technology is going to help them get there.
And it resonates with me that notion is overwhelming. Namely, for our educators, our entrepreneurs, really more our educators, how are they keeping up with the speed, and how are we integrating these new age ideas that are bound to happen and be part of our reality into our schools? Jordan, could you talk about that?
So I look at it from like a social impact space. I look at what virtual reality can do for social impact. We spend so much time with nonprofits and government trying to really tell stories and connect people and get compassion, talking about these big world issues, just like they were talking about plastic pollution. Karen Quintos and Michael Dell were talking about plastic pollution. How do you show people that there are 7.9 trillion pieces of plastic in the ocean, and what that looks like, and what that looks like from the lens of a whale, the lens of plankton? You can use VR and put them into the ocean and put them into one of those different animals and go through that journey. I mean, you can do the same thing when it comes to nuclear weapons and kind of doing the education of teaching about these different social issues. So you have different boardrooms that sit around and spend tons of money that they don't have to figure out how do we bring the compassion. We can use technology to bring compassion.
That's actually very profoundly put.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a sentence you don't hear very often.
No.
It's most people feel, and as you alluded to, Brian, and Liam, I'm sure you feel the cold analytics, the big data, all these things are just this is the cold science of it. You build machines, they do things, they do what you're supposed to do. You tell it what to do, and then maybe it enhances that. I think to that point, Jordan and Liam, what you alluded to is some of the strength would lie in not just what you ask the machines to do, but as they learn what you need them to do
Right,
to
because-
open your opportunities.
Right now, machines are just one way. They actually do what you ask them to do.
Yeah.
And we want machines to become more interactive with the user and the owner, in that they will actually start to push information back of saying if there's quality issues, if there's threats from security perspective, if there's malware on there that they can actually push back, and also from a maintenance perspective or predictive maintenance on machines that you can actually plan ahead. You can actually tie that in with the services group. You can tie that in with the depot that you're going to bring your machine to, your car, and so forth. So as a whole ecosystem now being connected from a physical world into the IT world, and the physical world has been in its own domain, operational technology for decades. And we've been in the IT world with PCs and so forth, and now we're actually merging those two worlds together, where a lot of that capability is now moving into that world of machines and machine learning, machine analytics, and so forth. When that happens, it's going to enrich our lives tremendously, and all vertical markets and all segments of the industry will be untouched by IoT. Now, there's a lot of other aspects of that too, around security, manageability of the devices, and so forth, and that's a whole aspect that has to be comprehended as part of this evolving ecosystem in the digital transformation.
Unbelievable stuff there. Just a reminder for the audience at home who's watching, David Goulden will be taking over the main hall in a brief moment. We're just getting you there as we talk about the future and the science behind the machine-human relationship and what that looks like over the next 3, 5, 30 years. So David Goulden will be taking the stage there. And you sort of talked a little bit there, Liam. I'd sort of like to get everybody's thoughts on the industry you see that will be affected deepest and quickest by this automation or the AI or the augmented reality. Ryan, what do you think?
It's interesting. I think in the enterprise and industrial, things are moving the fastest, where you can solve a problem today and connect a worker who, previously may have done something like mine coal, and that industry, may not be available to them anymore. And to go through a 2-year training program to take on a new vocation is really difficult. From a social standpoint, someone might have a family, and to be able to use AR to allow them to learn something in a matter of weeks and be productive. We've seen studies that can show the first time a worker uses AR, they can learn faster, they can perform 30% faster on the operation, and they can reduce errors by over 90%.
Wow.
That's really going to open it up from a manufacturing, from a maintenance and repair, to get workers up to speed and productive, immediately. And that's good to encourage more and more of that use. So definitely in the enterprise and industrial sector, we'll see it first. And then I think much like cellular technology, it moves from enterprise into the vehicle. Where our first phones, many of our first phones were car phones, because they amortized over the life of the vehicle, and that'll help you to build a relationship with that self-driving car as you become more and more of a passenger, to trust that it knows that a truck pulled in front of you, and that to understand the action it might take. And make you safer, and ultimately, do even more beyond that. So I think those are all exciting areas, and where we'll see it first, and then it'll come to more and more in your daily life.
I had to think about what a car phone was. I was like, what's a car phone? What's a car phone? I think I had my first phone when I was in like fourth
You
grade.
used a phone book to find a phone number, and then you picked up a car phone. It was all one big giant.
Yeah.
Different decades.
Different.
Our most youthful panelist of
Clearly.
the conference so far, but go ahead, Jordan.
But what I think about, so when you say that, when you talk about training and talk about the different technical jobs and teaching people different skills in a matter of weeks, whether it is and minus going to a university for 2 years or 4 years, I think about the accessibility and the equity that tech can bring, where you've had this this economy where so many people have been left out of it and left out of participating because of funds and because of not being able to afford college and not being able, or going into a system like criminal justice and not being able to. But if we could use technology to be able to open the gates and really bring access and accessibility to people across the board and across different ethnicities and different socioeconomic factors, like that's when like AR could be really, really, really sexy for the social world.
It's certainly throwing there, Liam.
Yeah, I think when you look at segments like transportation, tracking goods, when you look at other vertical segments like the food industry, tracking the health of food, the spoilage, reducing the spoilage. Other ones are in the medical sector. We see a lot of applications in the medical sector as well as manufacturing. Brian talked about training. When people are trained using AR, they actually retain the information 30% better than they would in the classroom environment. So when you think of like technicians working on a car, an engine, construction, visualizing the end result of what it's like, I think they're the main segments like manufacturing, industrial, food, and also medical.
Clearly, all things that touch. I mean, what's amazing, as we've seen, those of us who may be a shade out of the millennial group, is the exponential change in that. I made the joke about a phone book that literally, for those of you who don't know at home, they literally delivered a 1,000-page book to every home that had a manual list of phones you had to look up, alphabetical, wasn't in a small device that fit in your pocket, where you could also play Pokemon in augmented reality. None of those things, those are all true things that develop. But anyway, that's part of what's going on. Dell and the Institute for the Future have done some tremendous research. There'll be much more of that research being discussed in the future. I want to thank Brian so much for being with us. Appreciate your time. Jordan, amazing insights. Look forward to that. Liam, you're phenomenal. Thank you for what you're doing with Dell and CTO over there. We head back now to the main hall where David Goulden will be giving this part of the general session.
Thank you.